Over to you, Anne-Marie.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome. My name is Anne-Marie Christian, and I've been invited by CAA to come along and talk to you today about safeguarding. So I was sat on the safeguarding compliance panel at the Ignite conference that was put on by CAA on the 3rd of November 2023, and that was at Livingston Spa. And there was a few of us talking about safeguarding compliance. And we've been invited back today to talk more about safeguarding. So since the conference, we've had lots of queries, questions about various safeguarding matters. So I'll introduce myself and who I am and what I do. So I am Anne-Marie, a social worker of 27 years qualified, but in this space for 30 years. And I've worked in various settings. So I was a children's social worker, children and families child protection social worker, went on to manage social work teams. Then I was based in a school 23 years ago. And then I went on to children's services to manage staff. And then I did a lot of work in safeguarding and education. I was a school improvement safeguarding person that helped that team with safeguarding reviews when things went wrong. I did a LADO role, the local authority designated officer role, for a few years in education, allegations against staff, and the understanding of how people pose a risk to children. And then I did some safeguarding working, youth offending team in early years. So after that, I left and I kind of set up my consultancy. So I've been doing this for 13 years independently. And I work internationally, nationally, and I work from 0 to 25 in the sense of safeguarding. So I'm very familiar with you in your kind of out of schools activities provisions. But the good news is we kind of understand with safeguarding, schools have been doing it kind of obviously for their day jobs for a long while. So the law in England says that obviously we have a duty to keep children safe. So what I'm finding now is we're finding that you in your settings and out of schools have also got an expectation. So I'll give you a quick history, and it's really important we understand this. So the Children's Act 1989 states we need to keep children safe. And then the government has got guidance that they give us. So we've had a guidance called Working Together to Safeguard Children, and that's for anyone who works with children who must have safeguarding arrangements in place to ensure they can safeguard them. And I'll go on to explain what they mean when they say that. And then after that guidance, they've also introduced in 2014 Keeping Children Safe in Education. So that was published in 2014, and it's currently being revised almost every year. So this is Keeping Children Safe in Education. So I'm going to introduce you to that if you're not aware of it. So this is your gold, I would say your gold standard if you're out of schools, because it's important that you understand that you are expected to follow this guidance, which is for out of schools. But also, if you work in the school, you're expected to follow the other guidance. Don't worry, I'll explain. So in these guidance, they say on both of them in different ways that any setting, so keeping children safe is a legal framework that schools must follow. So if you're based in a school and run a provision for the school, you would have known that they would have expected a lot from you for safeguarding. They might question, have you had a DBS check? Have your staff had training? Have you got a safeguarding policy? And who's your safeguarding lead, designated safeguarding lead? So this has been growing over the last few years, if you didn't know. So that guidance, as I said, has been published since 2014, the school one. And when I showed you that, it does say on there for schools and colleges, as you can see, and it's statutory, okay? So that's what they must do for anyone that goes into school, ensure that they don't pose a risk to children and they understand how to report child abuse. So the local government association last year published a report about safeguarding in out of school settings. And unfortunately, the report wasn't great, i.e. what they found in that kind of research. And what came out of it was safeguarding wasn't understood in the same way. And a lot of parents believe that the out of school provisions are regulated when we know they're not, meaning anyone can set it up as a limited company or franchise, etc., etc. So parents are assuming that actually, you know, schools, I mean, if it's run in a school or a church hall, it's actually an official organisation like a school. So as you can see here, what the government have done is really strengthened empowering parents to ask questions, but also for you to know that these are expectations. So I'm going to talk about this now. So I've spoken at 3. I do quite a lot of public speaking, do quite a lot of articles and other things in the safeguarding space. I'm on Twitter, been there for a long while. I'm at Anne-Marie Child with no E on my Anne. So if you want to follow me and get updates for safeguarding, feel welcome. But what's happening now is you are expected to now ensure that under safeguarding, you have got a safeguarding policy that is revised every year, that all staff that you employ must have a DBS check. And if you are a person who's running a franchise or an organization similar who works with children or adults, by the way, and I say adults because people also can be barred from working with children or adults, but that's another story for another day, but we're doing children today. So it's important that we understand the expectations would be that people who are in regulated activity, which is when someone works with children more than 3 times over 30 days, they must mean they're in regulated activity. They must have an enhanced DBS check with a barred list check. Okay. And the guidance says newly appointed people, but a lot of people also renew it. I might have that done every 3 years as good practice to deter people. But also some people sign their staff up to the updated service. So it's just important that we think about that. So DBS is a requirement. So it's illegal to employ someone who hasn't got a DBS, especially meaning when you're working with children, sorry. Because you need to ensure that they don't pose a risk to children, because there's lots of people that are barred from working with children who apply to work with children. And if you employ them, you're breaking the law because you're then putting the child at risk. That's really important. Okay. Second thing is you must have a designated safeguarding lead in your organization. So depending on the size, I appreciate today we might have people who have a kind of small organization to the big ones. So for the big ones, you'd have someone strategically a safeguarding lead within the kind of top end of the strategic bit. Could be a trustee or governor, depending on how you're set up. And they must have attended designated safeguarding lead training in the last 2 years, i.e. it expires every 2 years. So what came out of the conference that we did in Edmonton Spa with the Ignite conference with CAA was, we then said we're going to put some training on because it was quite clear that a lot of people didn't understand. And what we're going to do is make this designated safeguarding lead training bespoke to the Children's Activities Association kind of members, but also non-members are welcome. But it will be bespoke for your kind of scenario. So I support lots of organizations behind the scenes who call me when something's gone wrong. And I'm also talking about your activities as well. So over the last 3 years, so a little health warning here, because we are talking about safeguarding. So please looking after yourself is important in what you're going to hear from me today, because child abuse isn't it's a subject that's quite disturbing, quite distressing. And you need to realize that when you're working with children, staff must be aware of what they must do if they're concerned about a child or what a child's told them. We call it a disclosure. Okay, so if a child discloses something to you, it's stating that they are telling you they've been abused or hurt or suggest something like that. Your staff must then report it to the safeguarding lead, the designated safeguarding lead, who then must, hence through their training, know what to do next. And it could be varied from call the police, call children's social care, depending on it could be called, it really varies on the severity of the concern. So that's something, again, you would need in the bigger companies. And then also you would have a deputy safeguarding lead in the smaller ones. So you've got a DSL at the main office and DDSLs in your different satellite places. So in every setting, there'll be somebody who's the person they can report to. And I appreciate this is good practice because some of you haven't got the resources for that. But what you must have is availability. You must be available at all times, in the sense of available to staff who want to report concerns. And what reporting system are you using? Are you using electronic system? Are you using paper and pen? What the guidance says, it must be immediate. So you must, hence some of you might do provision for an hour. So before that child goes home, we must resolve it, i.e. inform the safeguarding lead and make a decision. So all these things will be discussed in training. And just to give you the overview, we are actually holding, so we did a poll with CAA members a few weeks ago, because through the demand that's coming in, you do want training. and I'm an accredited NSPCC accredited trainer, so I'll be delivering the training in partnership with Children's Activity Association. So we're doing one in London, and we've got a date. It's going to be on the website later on, but the 31st of January 2024. And I'm very glad to say it's been sponsored by Malta Michelle as well. So we're really happy for that. And thank you so much for sponsoring, ourselves in that, both CAA and obviously Anne-Marie Christian. So we are looking forward to delivering. It'll be a whole day training, and it's going to be in London. It's not far from central London. So more details will come about soon with that, but there are limited places. So with training, I don't want to go more than 20 people. At a push, I could do 25, depending on the demand. We'll have a 9:30 start, and maybe a 4 finish, or 4:30. We might do, depending if a lot of people are new to the role, we might do a half a day online before the event, and then we can do the real face-to-face for the challenge. So again, if you are signing up, please tell us in advance whether you're new to the role or not, and then I can set you up with at least a few hours, again, overview with the setup before we go into the training, because you need to understand the basics in the sense of safeguarding lead. So that's something to be aware of. So yeah, safeguarding lead you must have, and also deputy one, and also ensuring that you've got a safeguarding policy. And ensuring that your safeguarding policy clearly states what you do when you're concerned about a child, clearly states how you recruit staff, clearly states how you deal with allegations against staff. And again, you've got to think about staff conduct. So how have you got a handbook that you give to your staff in the sense of people who work for your organisation? And what we'll explore is thinking about, you're going to have, some of you work in a school, provide a service in after school club. Fine. You go to the school, you've got a contract with the school, they're the children that are there, and you know what you're doing. The school can support you if they've got concerns, etc. Then some of you might run it in a school building but have nothing to do with the school, and therefore you are responsible for all the safeguarding. Okay, because that's a slight shift. But if you are also providing a service in the community hall or outdoors, same thing, but it's all on you, i.e. responsibilities, contacts, all those things. So we'll talk about this, and depending on the amount of people that are interested, we could separate ones that are based in the school, ones that are based in the community, because they're similar, but they're different in the pathways that we will choose. All staff should also have training. So school staff must have training every year, at least every year. So with CAA, we've been talking for a while about standards of safeguarding we're going to introduce to members. And we definitely are promoting training should be done at least every year. So we want all your staff to kind of be aware that when you join, you have an induction covering safeguarding, of course. But also we are going to be mindful of every year you will be provided with annual training of safeguarding, reminding them about things, etc. If you're based in a school, you are expected to read Keeping Children Safe in Education Part 1. So again, just being mindful of that. I didn't mention, but Julie is behind the scenes right now. And if any of you got any questions or for me or queries, please put them in the comments, and she's going to let me know, and then I will answer them. So right now, if you're listening and you have got comments, please let me know, okay? Because then we can go from there. It's really important, okay? So if you've got any questions right now, Anne-Marie, can I just ask you this? I'm not sure. Please use now, because it will really make our conversation much more bespoke, again, in thinking about what you'll kind of want to do now, okay? So let's just think about any questions right now you want from me to answer you on the now. Another thing I will say to you is safe recruitment training. So again, we're going to deliver some of that, because the law says that you can't employ people that pose a risk to children. And when you do that training, you're going to figure out there's people who have been caught, hence they've been barred and they can't work. There's people who have been referred in to the local authority, LADO, or even the police, but hasn't gone further because of evidence. There's loads of different things that would happen in that. However, we also need to be mindful of creating an ongoing culture of safeguarding where we deter people and have good practice in place. Okay, so again, the guidance says that any person on every appointment panel, there must be at least one person who's attended accredited safe recruitment training. So I'm looking forward to delivering that to you again in the new year. We haven't got a date for that one yet, but if you are a person who delivers, who recruits people, please be aware of that. So I'll give you a flavour of the things that the queries I've had over the last few years from out of school activities members. When I say members, I mean queries from people who run clubs. One of them was particularly about a child who unfortunately was causing harm to another child. So we all know about the categories of abuse. So if you're watching this today and you're working for an organisation or yourself in a franchise, etc., you should know the categories of abuse. I love an acronym, so I call them PENS: physical, emotional, neglect, and sexual. That is a categories of abuse. Okay, so you should understand the definition, what it looks like in signs and behaviours, and how to respond. So that's what your training will cover when you do your basic safeguarding training. And all staff must have that. Okay, so that's really, really important. So it's important that when we talk about safeguarding training, we mean people must understand. So one of them was about a child who was causing harm to another child, potentially under the category of abuse. This one was child on child harm, we call it child on child abuse. And that could be in any category, but this one was a child saying inappropriate comments, but also I'm aware that this is live and obviously being mindful of people's experiences and their own stories. But a child was kind of, inappropriately conducting themselves towards another child in a way that wasn't, that was concerning. So child on child abuse in the potential sexual manner. And it was girl on girl, by the way. So again, gendered, we tend to think one all the time, like boy to girl. We can have girl to boy, we can have girl to girl, boy to boy. Or think about non-binary people, any person in that sense. So just be mindful of that. And in the training, we will challenge you around what we think and what's the reality. So we are quite gendered when it comes to what the society tells us about people who do this. And that could be any person. So another one was about a parent who was concerned about how their child's behavior changed suddenly on day 2 of attending a summer club run by a franchise again, and knew something wasn't right. Her child was 4 at the time. And long story short, after a period of time, mum managed to engage with her child, had a conversation about what was worrying, blah, blah, blah. And what came out was a game that had been played by that staff to this child, da, 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 da. Again, that was a male on male, one boy, member of staff to the child, a game that was played. The game wasn't named, i.e., no one knew about this game. Only the children in that room knew about the game. And again, it was a game a bit like Sleeping Lions. You've got mats, you've got people standing still, and someone jumps around on different things. But long story short, parent got the disclosure from the child eventually, who knows their child. Parent rang the police got involved, blah, blah, blah. However, when the organisation that was hosting it was contacted, the first thing the police said was, we need the names of everybody who works in the organisation who was on site over the summer. Okay. And then they wanted to make sure that they've had training, they've been DBS checked, etc., etc. So that's just an example of another one, but that was an allegation against staff that went further. Hence, the police were involved, interviewed the child, and other things too. And that was clearly child and child. Sorry, that was child sexual abuse one in that one I've just mentioned. And the last one was again a parent accusing a member of your staff of hitting a child when the member of staff did not hit. It was more of one would argue, an altercation, but not hitting. So it could have been like restraint. So going back to, has somebody in your organisation attended positive handling training if they had to restrain a child? Because that's when you're really vulnerable for allegations. So that was one of those where, in the end, I was supporting the director of this organisation in knowing how to work with the school, and then what that meant in, of course, it was referred to the local authority for investigation. Nothing came out of it, but what did come out of it was the parent wanted that member of staff to be sacked. I know, even though it was unfounded, and even witnesses didn't see what the mum was suggesting, etc. So that's just an example. Yeah. So any questions, Julia? Any questions that we're getting in from them at the moment that I could answer?
Yeah, we do. So Donna Stapley is watching. She says, hi, Anne-Marie. Thank you for this session. Regarding franchisors, am I right in thinking they would be designated safeguarding lead with an allocated deputy, and the franchisees themselves would also be safeguarding lead trained? Would the franchisees also need to allocate a deputy?
Right. So I've had quite a few conversations with lots of franchisors and franchisees. I like that, e's and ers. And in that, I always say, who in your organization has the full responsibility for safeguarding? So I get called in when things go wrong, troubleshooter. And when we go up the chain of accountability, who at the top is ensuring that things are done on the ground? Okay. So therefore, so multi-academy trusts are a fantastic model of that. We know that with schools. So we know years ago it was local authorities, but now it's multi-academy trusts where you'll have a strategic safeguarding lead who lives who is based in the central, the HQ, all right, i.e. top strategic. And then all of the other schools under that multi-academy trust would have another safeguarding lead. Because don't get me wrong, they're schools and they must do it because of keeping children safe. But good practice would be in the reporting to on site on your satellite places that you've got remotely around, you should have a deputy safeguarding lead who therefore is a person staff go to as a DDSL. And depending on your structure, they must then report to you. Okay. However, it is worth, depending, and I appreciate some of you have small gigs, i.e. a few groups, some of you have massive. The bigger your groups are and the volumes that you do, good practice would be, because a lot of it is professional curiosity, I'll explain. Right. So been qualified 27 years. I've interviewed hundreds of children. And I always, as a social worker, do I accept what you're telling me at face value? Because we know from case reviews, we often see, so that, Arthur Logan Starr, even baby Alfie, the 18-month-old baby, do we believe what this family's telling us? Or are we actually questioning? We don't believe them because, or something doesn't feel right. So therefore, that's why one could argue if you're not based on site, you don't know that family and all the dynamics that go with that. So I'm only giving you a mixed bag here of one doesn't fit all, i.e. model. But you can see my point here with, of course, you need strategic accountability. But then how do you know it's happening on the ground? That's one thing. But secondly, on site, you do need someone to actually understand the safeguarding challenges that come with that, to challenge families to make that ultimate decision, child's not going home, we're calling the police. Because don't forget, a lot of you work after 5, which means you're not going to get children's social care at 5 o'clock. You're going to get out of hours or the emergency duty team, which is harder work, because you haven't got a duty social work, you haven't got a team to call, you've only got maybe a smaller team. It's kind of like skeleton team based on covering between 5 and 9 in the next morning. Some local authorities have big teams, but most of them just have staff available. So just thinking about that as well. So in answer to your question, I definitely would think about someone on the ground who can cover safeguarding, who understands the ongoing culture of vigilance, i.e. staff concerns, as well as parent dynamics and the child. And that's why being on ground is much better. So that could be your DDSL. But if you're having that, you need to really enrich them and support them with it too, rather than wait for them to contact you and have systems in place. So after each session, did they have any concerns? So you've got to really think about, it's not reactive, it should be proactive. So if you have got DDSLs in your different sites, do you have like monthly or fortnightly meetings that you'll come together and talk about safeguarding concerns or whatever? So you just got to think about, if you're doing something like that, you need to support it as well if you're going to have people on site who are deputies. But you definitely should have, I definitely would encourage the model of a person who's being trained as a DSL. So you don't go on a DDSL training and DSL training, you only go on DSL training, i.e. there's only one training that you go on. And then that person who's the DSL would go on the same training, but the guidance says when the DSL is not available, the DDSL makes a decision on their behalf. So train up your staff to the DSL training, and then in your groups and your organizations, you can then decide how you're going to use that trained member of staff. Does that make sense? I hope that can answer your question. And also, if anyone's listening in Birmingham or Manchester, particularly Birmingham, that was our second highest group around the country where people said they wanted training. if anyone knows of a venue or can host us, that'd be really good. So we've got London, but we do need, it would just help to cut the costs down really, because otherwise we've got to book a hotel or book a venue, and that would just bring the prices up. So if anyone is listening and they're prepared to host a maximum 20 people in either Birmingham or Manchester, please let us know, let Julia know, and then we can talk to you about, negotiating something where obviously we cover things, etc. But it can help us in our kind of keeping the costs down. Thank you. Any other questions, Julia? Julia, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, Anne-Marie.
No problem. That's
No,
fine. I thought I lost you.
Donna said, brilliant. Thank you. This was what I thought to be the case. So great to have the clarification. So yeah, thank you for that. No one else at the moment asked questions, but I'm sure there's going to be lots of people watching this evening or over the weekend. So Anne-Marie, I know you're quite active in the group, so will you be able to keep an eye on the comments if anyone does any questions?
I'll quickly show you these before we kind of sign off. So this is using after school. This is on the DfE website. We shared this after the conference, didn't we, Julia? On that will be an old post somewhere on the Facebook page. Then we've got this checklist. So in this checklist, you've got talk to us about. So this will be a poster you have, and if you see, I can't see it. Sorry about the blurred. On this white spot here, believe here on here, that's where you're supposed to put for questions or concerns about safeguarding. It says our safeguarding lead is, and last updated. So on here we've got, we believe extracurricular clubs, youth organisations should be safe spaces. For children, ask us about our health and safety policy, fire safety evacuation plan, staff and volunteer employment checks, parental consent form, child protection policy, and complaints policy. I also would think about intimate care policy, because again, if you've got, and that's where some of the things that have come up for me and the concerns from organisations have been about the toileting or how you can support children, in other ways. Another one is, this is a nice one, 7 steps towards running a safer setting for children. So on here, you've got, I have a safeguarding policy and procedures in place. I've appointed a person who's going to be the DSL. I've undertaken appropriate safeguarding training. I know the referral routes for youth when I have a concern. I do appropriate DBS checks, pre and post recruitment. I have a health and safety risk assessment, and I have more than one emergency contact number. So all these things are actually in the Keeping Children Safe in Schools as well. So what the DfE do is, I've seen it in early years, I've seen it in other sectors where the education one I mentioned, the Keeping Children Safe in Education, is definitely the gold mark. That's the one that is, hence it's statutory. It's been around for 9 years. 9 years. It's a fantastic. It went from 60 pages to 180 pages. That's how big this document is. Read it. So if you're watching today and you're thinking, this is all new to me, don't know what you're talking about, please read that. And if you found this helpful today, we could do another one, because I'm kind of behind the scenes of CAA. They've got me on tap, and they ask me lots of questions of various things that members bring in. So don't let it be a reactive thing, i.e. don't come in an emergency or crisis. Try to think and be reflective about what have I got in my organisation. So your takeaways will be, please just reflect on what I've just said about the principles of, do we DBS people? And have you got a single central record like what schools would have, i.e. a one central place where you've got all the list of members of staff and paid and unpaid workers. So I don't like the word volunteer, only because when I was at Ledo, I found that organisations are much more lenient with volunteers because they're doing them a favour, rather than when we treat them like staff, paid and unpaid staff, I expect the same from you, rather than I'll be flexible with you because, or go soft on you because you are a person who's helping me out. So try to think about that as well in the sense. So definitely DBS checks to think about for all, and volunteer DBSs are actually free. So that's just another thing to think about. But again, you need to do risk assessment. There's much more you'll learn in training about what we need to do with our volunteers. So DBS checks for everybody who's in RA, but also just DBS for people working with children. Ensuring you've got a designated safeguarding lead who's attended training this last 2 years. And also you've got a safeguarding policy that's revised every year. Okay, so they're the 3 things that is required. But also ensuring that all staff have attended training, like I mentioned. That's really, really important. Thinking about the cost of living at the moment, thinking about the area you're working. So across the country, it varies. It really varies in your region based on themes of poverty to affluent neglect to exploitation to cultural challenges, i.e. cultures where hitting your child is still acceptable, potentially, to neglect through generational neglect because the parent was neglected, they're doing it to their child, they're not aware, or inappropriate behavior from a child or to another child. So there's so much we can talk about, and we definitely will cover it in the training. But in listening, again, please contact Julia at CAA for any queries regarding training. And again, if you are somebody in Birmingham or Manchester that knows of a venue, or please let us know. That would just help us in booking for the spring. Okay. Any more questions before we wrap up?
No, none at the moment. Like I said, there's probably lots of people going to be watching over the weekend or this evening. So are you also happy for me to share your contact details, your email
Yeah,
address in the
yeah,
comments?
that's fine. That's fine. Thank you. And I'm on Twitter again. You can Anne-Marie Child, and you could send me a DM. I'm on LinkedIn, Anne-Marie Christian, or through my website. But yeah, any questions regarding, of course, I can give you the kind of quick pointers in helping you to think. But definitely we need to keep the place safer. In my job when I was a Lado, when people ask me in all the sectors, like I do safeguarding in art, sports, faith, international, um, voluntary sector, different sectors, education, university, colleges, etc., etc. The two that I always find that are the riskier ones in my experiences of working and supporting those sectors, i.e., where safeguarding is maybe not as strong and embedded like education, for example, being schools, clearly schools and colleges at the top based on the guidance I just shared, would be international because the world's so big and DBSs are not transferable, i.e., every country's got their own system. Most would just have a police check, some have kind of international child protection checks. But the second one is the voluntary sector. Or the third sector being, some of you are organized private companies, some of you might be charities, etc. But that sector, you're a company that works with children. You're very away from the statutory agency. So children's social care, police and health are statutory. Anyone else is just in the wider workforce. So you are in the wider workforce. And there's, one could argue some of you specialize in particular topics like arts and crafts, like ballet, like sports, like music. I've seen lots of yours different and they're all amazing. But sometimes you get people who are really passionate about it too, i.e. adults, that come along and maybe add value, but we sometimes lose the person in it, meaning they're great at their job, but I'm concerned about their boundaries. And in some sectors, what I found was you can blur your boundaries in the actual activity, like in drama, in singing. There's certain things that if I was teaching a child ballet or something, I could say, right, no, you leave your legs slightly apart here. Okay. So there's certain things we just got to be mindful of. Have we got things in place to safeguard our staff too? So these are the things we could discuss in the training, giving you an overview of the things that I've been involved in where I know there's opportunities for people who actually want to take advantage. And going back to the B-Shard inquiry post Ian Huntley, there's a famous quote that we use in training that says, unfortunately, we can do our best to stop these devious people from doing their evil, devious things. However, these people, if they've got if they want to do it, it is opportunity to, unfortunately, they would take that opportunity. So we've just got to be mindful that a DBS is a piece of paper. Yes, we need it. Of course we do. Most people are fine, but there's, again, more people that might not be caught than caught. That makes sense. So, if any of you know about, Rolf Harris, Jimmy Savile, all that stuff, for many years there's been concerns. Did it come up in the DBS or CRB? Then no. So the things I'm saying are just be open-minded. Of course, I'm optimistic. I wouldn't be doing the job otherwise, but I'm aware that in my day job, I get a lot of the negative stuff. So I just want to share good practice with you and make sure that you're an organization that are really transparent, open-minded, but also can create, and my final words now, can create a culture of safeguarding in your organization and a culture of reporting and create an ongoing vigilance culture of, potentially being aware of children reporting, suspicions around people or things around, to then have that professional curiosity to ask more questions to your safeguarding leads, etc. Okay, so yeah, I thank you for inviting me, Julia, and CAA. I look forward to meeting you for those people who are going to join us on the 31st of July. I can't remember the dates now.
31st
Out
of
of my head.
January.
31st of January 2024. It's going to be in London, as I said. And then we haven't booked dates for anything else yet. So again, depending on you listening and wanting the request, because we don't want to put training on and no one turns up or we don't get the numbers in. So we want to really capture you and your needs, and then we can book it, because our objectives are by the summer, we've done quite a lot of sessions. So we've got one in January, and I'm aware that if we're traveling up and down, my diary is quite tight, and so is CAA. So we just got to get those right dates in. So please, if you are thinking about having something more local, we can. Face-to-face is better than obviously, what do you call it, online, because you can really feel that the attention in the room, or feel the atmosphere of how you can go further. So again, we might have an option online for people that are in remote places, but we're definitely going to promote you to go to face-to-face training. So thank you from me. Again, I'm on Anne-Marie Child on Twitter, LinkedIn, my name here. I'm on Instagram, Anne-Marie Christiane, or the Safeguarding Expert. So again, keep in touch. Any questions, let me know. Thank you very much, Julia, for inviting me to come along and talk.
No, thank you, Anne-Marie. That was amazing. And yeah, any questions, put them in the chat. Anything you want to ask about the training, that will be live on the website by the end of the day. We'll be advertising it. If you have any questions about that or want to find out more, pop along to the website or just drop a question into the comments. But yeah, thank you, Anne-Marie. And thanks everyone
No
for
problem.
listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye. Have a lovely week.